To get ready for our quiz on modifier placement, let's run through several pages of practice. So the rule is to keep modifiers next to the thing they're supposed to describe. And in most cases, we have this initial modifier that is at the beginning of a sentence with a comma at the end. And then we have to choose which noun is described by this modifier. So disappointed but understanding describes the fans. So we don't pay attention to how the sentences sound or whether we think the rest of the order is correct. The only thing we care about is the noun, the first noun after that comma. Is it described by this phrase? If so, then it's right, and if not, it's wrong. Additionally, but less common, we'll be moving around some adjectives. So for example, the word delighted does not belong in front of gumballs because the gumballs are not delighted, or in front of machine. Instead, it belongs in front of toddler. And we see here again that giggling correctly describes the toddler and not the gumballs. So jumping around a little bit, going to number 5. Although thoroughly trained as postal workers, and we have options: deliveries, the mail, the cats, or orders. Well, it's C, cats. That's the only noun that makes sense to be described in that way. For number 6, was a ship astounded, an inspection, the divers, or the encounter? Divers is the only noun that makes sense to be described as astounded. We will see some problems like number 9, where unconsumed is either describing law, food items, law, or charity for D, and we have to determine which one is the correct noun. Turns out here, it's the food items that are unconsumed. None of the others make any sense at all. And then for number 10, who was distracted by the sweat in his eyes? It was the goalie. It was not the ball or the goalie's hands. Notice the apostrophe S. That makes goalies a modifier for hands, and hands is the noun. Or it was not everyone. Since the age of 10, tennis, well, tennis is not 10 years old. But if we look at some of the other noun options, tennis is also wrong. And my daughter Kayla's fascination is wrong. It is in fact my daughter Kayla that has been fascinated with tennis since the age of 10. So C was the best choice. We might have a modifier somewhere in the middle of a sentence like this, as encouraging parents, and that is describing lessons, which doesn't make any sense. So if we look at some of the other choices there for number 4, we makes a lot more sense. As encouraging parents, we. For number 5, a simple sport is not describing the rules. It's describing tennis, not tennis's rules or no one. For number 6, made and shaped from wood, well, the players were not made and shaped from wood, so that's wrong. The game of tennis is not made and shaped from wood, that's wrong. The first rackets, however, were made and shaped from wood. And C is the best choice, as D is unnecessarily wordy. If we took out found to be, doesn't change anything, shorter is better. The one that almost everyone got wrong, the modifier said, but by improving the underlying technology, some noun are more powerful than ever before. So it's true that today's rackets are more powerful than ever before, but by improving the underlying technology does not describe today's rackets. In fact, it describes the racket's creators. Jumping ahead to number 11, this phrase, with spin and power, is in different spots. Which one makes the most sense? So she taught Kayla a better way to serve the ball with spin and power. Taught with spin and power? Probably not. Or she taught Kayla with spin and power, being a non-essential phrase describing Kayla, a better way to serve the ball. Again, that doesn't work. She taught Kayla a better way to serve the ball, and this non-essential information with spin and power doesn't work. D is the best choice because with spin and power is describing the way the ball is served. So moving ahead to the dangling and misplaced modifiers exercise from yesterday. In 1876, the 23-year-old Spelterini became the only woman ever to cross the Niagara Gorge over a period of 18 days on a tightrope. So we want this modifier on a tightrope to be describing how she crossed the Niagara Gorge. And it's not right next to it, so A was wrong. B was the best answer, because on a tightrope had to be next to how she crossed. And then we connect that to this dependent clause, which makes perfect sense. Notice C was a comma splice, comma, and then subject verb all over again. For the second one, balancing on a 2 1/4 inch wire, she. Does that describe she balancing on a 2 1/4 inch wire? Yes, it does. For number 3, on July 19th, the second crossing occurred while blindfolded. Well, who or what was blindfolded? This while blindfolded is not connected to any subject. So that's a problem. Similarly for B and D, this in a blindfold or blindfolded is not connected to any subject. That's why C was the best choice, because it tells us who was blindfolded. Number 4, never performing at Niagara, the story of her life remains a mystery. So the story of her life is not what never performed at Niagara. We don't know who didn't perform. The wrong noun is listed here. If we look at the other options, choice B is a comma splice. We have 2 independent clauses, subject verb, comma, subject verb. There's no conjunction, comma splice. Similarly to A, C here, never again performing at Niagara, the story of her life is not what never performed. D is the best choice. We have 2 separate ideas correctly joined with a comma conjunction, and she is the right subject for never again performed. Number 6 had 2 modifiers, but still 88% of students got it right. First off, who was it that was beginning their journey in spring of 1849? It was the prospectors. That allowed us to rule out C, though, because an overland route was the wrong noun. Then the other modifier, known as the 49ers, had to be in the right spot, because for A, it was describing the overland route, which was wrong. So between B and D, the only difference is took versus taking. Taking is another modifier, that participle. The right choice was B, that had the main verb, took. For number 7, some 49ers traveled alone, but most formed companies that enabled them with other miners to share expenses and supplies. So with other miners is describing what they're sharing, and this is in the wrong spot. And for B, it's not true that we share expenses with the supplies. That's wrong. For C, the sharing of expenses with other miners and supplies, we're still sharing expenses with supplies, which is wrong. D was the best choice. With other miners is in the right spot now. Number 8, after disembarking. That's our modifying phrase. Let's find the right noun. A several-day mule ride. A several-day mule ride. They, or the beginning of a several-day mule ride. Which one is being modified by that phrase? It's C, they. Because they disembark, not the mule ride. Number 9, for decades, plastic bags have been a favorite around the world of store owners because of their low cost. As written, this suggests that of store owners is describing the world. So there's some world of store owners that plastic bags have been a favorite around. That's wrong. D, of store owners around the world, is a better way of ordering those modifiers. Number 10, used widely since the 1970s, that phrase does not describe the environmentalists. We don't want to say that environmentalists have been used widely since the 1970s. So what have been used widely since the 1970s? It's the bags. And B orders things correctly here. Notice C describes the environmentalists again. And D unnecessarily includes a comma but when the first sentence or the first clause is not independent. The bags which have been widely used since the 1970s. Missing a verb. Number 11, unable to break down in landfills. What is unable to break down in landfills? It's the bags. A was right.